Can everyone see?
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so I'm just going to be going over today pretty much the basics of Substance Painter, but most of all, character baking and taking the textures of making Substance Painter back into Blender, because there isn't actually many tutorials on how to do either of them steps, but you'll find plenty online about creating different textures and stuff. So I thought I'd cover the stuff that it's very hard to find anything about. So I'll be covering pretty much the basic of importing your meshes from Blender to Substance, baking in the detail from a high poly to a low poly, using smart materials, creating your own smart materials, painting using masks, and exporting and setting back up in Blender your textures. So first of all, you're going to want to import your object into Substance and bake it. You can bake in Blender. I don't actually know the full process because I don't think the baking is that great in Blender from what I've heard. But it's very crucial to bake any sculpt or object you make, because it's the only way to get into a game. This can go for like just non-inanimate objects, because the pixel count is so high on a sculpt that it will just kill a game. So you could not run Unity with a sculpt in it. So basically you're going to be taking, so I'm just using this bug character as an example. You're going to be using the sculpt of the section you've got. So I've got this the sculpt of the body and the head here, which is all just one piece, and then this is the retopology of it. As you see, it looks really weird and smooth. That's just because I've shaded the object to smooth. You're going to want to make sure it's smooth and not cubey, because if it's cubey, once you bake it in, it's going to have these weird defects where it's like it can't get around these corners, so it has to be smooth. It's really simple to get these out of Blender. You literally just go File, Export, and click Wavefront OBJ. And make sure when you're doing this, you have whatever object you're going to be taking out selected. So I've had the sculpt selected for one of these, and the retopology selected for the other. So then, yeah, you're going to be left. So you come up this screen where you where it's just how you save it. So select the folder you want to keep these all in. You're going to need every single bit of data that's coming out. So you want to make sure these are easily found on your computer. And yeah, so there's not much to it. Literally just make sure you have selection only selected. Or you will crash your computer, because it will try and export everything in that Blender file to an OBJ, which I've done a couple times by accident, which is a pain in the ass. So yeah, you should be left with just these 4 files, but the 2 most important ones are these 2 OBJ files, and just make sure you label them like easily found and different. So you've got torso low poly, torso high poly. Okay, so yeah, then you'll be heading over to Substance Painter, and you're going to use these 2 files to text your object and bake in the detail. So open up Substance, you're just going to go straight to New Project, and you'll get this pop up. What I use for a template is PBR Metallic Roughness. It's just what I use. It took me a long time to mess around with different templates, what was the best one, but this seemed to be the best one for Blender objects. And then yeah, you're just going to, in this file option, select the low poly object, and then you'll get an option to pick a resolution for the project. I usually go 2K. You can up it later on, but 2K is probably the best option if you've got like a mid-range PC. If you've got like a super PC, you can go straight into 4K and you'll get all that extra detail. And if your PC is struggling, you can just drop to 1080p while you're working, and then up the resolution before you export the object. So yeah, this is what you'll see also when you, these are on the run order. This is what you see when you open Substance. Just thought I'd go through the basics of it. If you're familiar with Photoshop, there's a lot of similar attributes, because obviously it's made by Adobe. Like layers, you have your layers tab here. This is extremely similar to Photoshop. works pretty much in the same way with how you add like filters and stuff to each layer. In texture settings, you just have most of your baking and like overall settings for the project. Down in the section here is just where like brush details and stuff will come up, which is actually a lot like a Blender. And then you also have this shelf here, and Substance Painter comes with a bunch of preloaded materials, smart materials, displacement maps, brushes. You can also download them pretty easily. I'll show you the website in a bit. But yeah, there's loads of stuff, and this is all good for you to use. And yeah, you most of the texturing you'll find just down here from just already made ones. You just got to do some edits to it. And then probably the most intricate process, this one, I couldn't find a single tutorial online about how to do this. I sort of had to figure out from several like aspects. So this is probably the one thing you should take in from this. Is baking your high poly detail onto the low poly model with it being a Blender file. So just in texture settings, you're going to go open that and just click bake mesh maps with the object open. And then it'll come up with this pop-up here, which will give you your options to bake it. So basically, this isn't the right one I've got here, but so for the first one I did, you just throw in your high definition mesh here, which will be just the high poly that you save the OBJ. You can put your output size. So again, I'm just going for 2K. 2K is usually quite a good option to go with. And then for this one, I've applied the diffusion. I know it doesn't say there, and I've also ticked off ID because you don't need these, and they're just taking up time when you're trying to, because it can be a lengthy process baking. And then also I'd untick average normals if you're doing it this way. And then you literally just click bake selected textures and it should work. Sometimes it does weird stuff like this, and it's really annoying. This is probably after retopology is one of the worst processes of making a character, unfortunately. I don't know what happened here. I was literally just trying to make the example and this happened, so perfect example to show you how to fix it, but it just something doesn't read it correctly, because you can see aspects of the original sculpt to come through, but it's just all over the place. So an easy fix for this, I found, is using a cage method where you trap external data as well of your sculpt from the retopology. So you create a second retopology. This isn't as lengthy as the other one. You literally just use the original, but you just duplicate it and then scale it up using Alt-S, which just scales in all axes. And then you'll get sort of like a look like this, where you have kind of little bits poking through. They're fine because you fix them, but mostly you trapped all that external data, which can be seen here. All of this is gone. And then just to fix them up, I literally just poly select each section and just scale it up with the Alt-S option again until all like gray bits are gone and hidden in this like external like wrapping of the model. And then, then you literally go to baking this again, and you'll keep everything ticked and done, but you'll just go to use cages, and you'll throw in, so you want to export that cage as an OBJ, as before. You want to export this as an OBJ, and you want to just name it like cage or something. And just use that as the cage file, and then when you bake it again, it should work, because what it's doing now is it's using both of these to create the model, so it's capturing that outer detail, but also the crevices that the other retopology is capturing. So it's capturing all aspects of the model. I don't know the full science behind it, because a much more intelligent programmer definitely set this up, but it works. And then I've just thrown on a smart material on here just to show that it's just that easy just to throw stuff on. So this is a machinery rusted metal one, which obviously doesn't fit, but you can see it's using all the details, so even in the crevices, it's added rust. So it's reading all the stuff I've baked in all these like nooks and crannies. It's added rust. It's using all the data I've collected, and it's just it's applying it straight away. So that's the beauty of the smart materials, that you don't have to worry too much about painting a lot of it yourself. So yeah, so now going on, I'm going to be using this skull as an example. But yeah, so from this stage, I've literally just baked it, and then all I've done here is literally throw on a bone stylized smart material that I found on Substance Share, and then you just straight away you've got the basic base of like a bone texture. But I'm also going to go into how I turn this bone stylized into a full blown my own smart material that I use for the rest of this model. So yeah, a lot like in Photoshop, you're going to be just if you do photo editing in Photoshop, not the like painting side. You're just going to be adding layers with different effects to them to slowly build up the look. So first of all, I've just added a simple like light brown tannish color here, just for a fill shader, and not even painting onto model or anything. All I've done is add several. So I've added a fill layer, which is grunge concrete. So there is loads of like smart materials, loads of displacement maps on Substance Painter that you wouldn't think of using, but you should mess around with, because this grunge concrete was perfect in getting this sort of like grimy, dirty look. I've also used a generator called MG Dirt, and this just captures dirt. It uses your baked mesh map to capture dirt in crevices in the model. So again, this is all procedural. There's no painting or anything. It's all just capturing using the data of the model. It's really easy to add these. There's just this option above your layers. So you've got your masks, your fill layers here. Obviously, there's other ones like smart materials, open objects, bin, paint, but mostly I use masks and fill layers. And yeah, so if you're confused what a displacement map is, it's just a simple thing that is made in like programs like Photoshop using like editing photos. All it does is it uses the data of an image like this. It uses the black to make that a crevice and the white to elevate that in the image. And it just, yeah, that's just how it, that's what a displacement map looks like. And it just uses that to affect the color you've picked. So yeah, it seems very complicated, but it's very simple. You don't actually need to learn the intricacies of this. You just need to know how to utilize all these cool methods that are in it. Yeah, and so there's just showing you on here on the side here an example of just all these. So you've got add generator, add fill, add masks, which if you're again knowledge of Photoshop is good, you know what a black mask is, but that's just used for painting pretty much. And then yeah, so but you obviously will want to add like brush strokes and details that way, and that's how I did all of the blood on this character. Again, just to reiterate, while I'm doing this, I have got my my mood board up on the side, so I'm always using a real world reference. You can see some of the skulls and stuff down here for this character. But yeah, so these are all the brushes you can find in Substance. I opened a new Substance, so there's none that I've downloaded in here. So there's already plenty of on there for you to use. For the blood here, I mostly used, it's up here, it's Dirt. I've Dirt 3 and Dirt 2. But there's loads of brushes, and you can download a bunch more. But then yeah, just using reference, I've just painted on some blood splatters using several brushes. And then again, I've just gone on and done the same process with using displacement maps and procedurally generating this texture. So then, yeah, just adding a fill layer with a displacement map called Grunge, which is then going into these crevices again, and it's adding these sort of like dried up look blood that I've made. And then, yeah, Dirt Base, which is again just adding generators that just apply this color, this brownish color I've picked, and it's just applying it to certain areas of the model using finish graining, which again is making this sort of like speckly, so it's making it look like it's dirt that's actually on the object. And I've just gone up to the side here and I've shown sort of the basic options you can do to affect these layers. So this will come down in the properties tab on the side, and this is just how I'm messing around. You just want to sort of pull and push these dials around till you get sort of the look you like. Again, you don't need to know the like intricacies of it. It's just very much messing around. You pick it up very quickly. Like I've not got much time and substance, but I feel like, you know, this is pretty good looking texture, and it's not actually, you don't need that much knowledge of the program. It's very just quickly just how you artistically want it to look. So yeah, using this method for other models. So here's the legs for the membrane character, and you realize you start going down kind of a wacky route. So this was the first pass I did. I just wanted to, looking at some pretty nasty reference, but I wanted to capture a lot of like the inner details of like the muscles, the colors that come through the skin. So before even adding the skin, I just focused on the blemishes you see on the skin, sort of like this is resemble like dead sort of flesh of this character and stuff. But yeah, you don't feel weird to have vibrant colors at the start, because you cover them up eventually. So you can see I've gone over with a skin shader, which has affected like some areas of the model, but that's mostly just a basic skin pass. And it's just using this under detail to add sort of like blemishes and stuff. And then yeah, then going on over again, just referring to reference of just like games, films, everything real world reference. But yeah, I've started adding like blue like veins and stuff into this model. This is all through paint, this section, this sort of like green blemishes. And yeah, just it's very easy to build up a model. I think this was done in about half an hour, and it's already getting to the stage of where it would look good in a game. You can also, it's not just about affecting the color of the model. You can mess around with still sculpting the model in this through tiny details, which is how I usually do all my tiny details. So I don't go in and sculpt wrinkles and blemishes in Blender. I usually save that for Substance. But so what I've done here is, this looks kind of weird, but I've just turned on the colors for these layers. You don't see these colors on the final object because all I'm using is the height and the roughness of these textures. But these are just a group of several skin textures I've used just so I can add pores in, details, wrinkles. There's also like some zombie flesh textures I used, which are used on these like gnarly little feet down here and stuff. So yeah, oh, and on the pipes that you can see on him, I've used a different texture. Obviously, I've used like a, I think I used like a latex texture for that. So yeah, just going through and just literally just painting in sort of the wrinkles and blemishes, which is a really nice thing to be able to do and not affecting the color I've worked on the time before. And then yeah, and then you can go in and do extra detail, but this was actually just using the blood smart material that I had made for the skull, and all I'd done is just thrown this onto legs, and that is what it gave me. So you can see you speed up the process of making characters really quick, because you've got all these smart materials you made for one section of the character, and you get to the arms, you haven't got to worry about remaking it, make it look the same, because you've got these smart textures that you saved. You can just boom, boom, throw on the model and they're done. And that's how I got this model out so quickly over Christmas. And yeah, so these are just the smart materials, the two smart materials I use. I've also got the skull and the dirt one I haven't got shown here. And then yeah, so this whole model was textured in Substance. The pipes are also done a lot of the same way, but most of the pipes I found already smart materials I could have used for them. And then yeah, so most of this, pretty much all of this character is procedural. There's only a few bits that I painted on to make it look nice, with like blood around the pipes and like little blood splatters here and there. But it's all procedural, and it's perfect, because it seems daunting texturing a model. You think, I'm gonna have to paint every single part of it. I remember in college I was taught that you have to paint the UV maps on Photoshop, which you don't have to do. You can literally just, it's that easy just to texture a character. And I've gone onto ArtStation. I've got all the names of these artists, so if anyone wants to know who they are, just let me know and I'll send you their links. But I've just gone up Substance Painter Procedural, and all these artists have used it. So the character artist on Doom, this character is fully procedural. So this armor here, these green bits are all just a procedural texture they've thrown on. Games like Destiny uses them. Here's like they literally just applied these procedural textures to sphere objects, so you can sort of get a vibe from. Yep, the skin for observation, and then this is a example of someone doing it for a Unity game, which I thought would be good to show because you can show that you can pack in a load of detail and still run it on Unity, which is good to know. So where I get most of my extra materials, I'm sure there's other ways, other small sites you can get them from, but it's best to get them through Substance. So you can get a free trial for Substance Source, which I think is 30 days, and you get a certain amount of materials you can export out. But then after that, I think you pay a flat fee, and you get, it's like 50 textures a month or something. And yeah, there's loads of textures on there, so you can quickly build up characters and not even have to worry about even doing any of the smart materials. But if you want to just get free ones, you can also go to Substance Share, which is literally just people that have used Substance. They've just thrown up their own textures, and you can download them there. So once you've done all this process, you're going to be left with your final UVs, which are these. So this is the unwraps I've done in Blender with the textures I've painted, applied in Substance. And I know there's several ones up on screen. So basically what's the difference is it saves each texture. So each level of texture. So this one down here, this is all the height. So this will be all the pores, the cracks, all that 3D texture I've baked in. This is the bake map. So this is the high poly sculpt texture. So this is the sculpt that will be applied to your low poly model in Blender. And then you've got displacement maps with this green one here. This one's capturing a lot of extra detail. And then you just got your flat color one, which is this one here. And it's really easy to export these and throw them into Blender. There's no tutorials online about it, unfortunately, that I could find. So it took me a while to figure out. But I will save all these PowerPoint slides. I'll throw them in Slack so you can always refer to them. But all you got to do is literally just go to File in Substance Painter and click Export Textures, and you will be taken to this screen. And there's nothing you really got to do on this screen. Just name it. You got to just name a folder to put these in, because you're going to have a lot of textures by the time you finish with a character, and then just export. And yeah, when I say a lot, you will have a lot. There's even more textures for this guy. So make sure you name these correctly, because you're going to have to refer to these later on. But yeah, just make sure these are easy to get to, because there's going to be a lot. And then applying them into Blender is really easy. If you use one of the add-ons, they just haven't randomly included in Blender. So again, if you don't remember from my last one, just go into Blender, go to Edit in the top and click Preferences, and you get the screen to add add-ons. And the add-on I'm using in this section is called Node Wrangler, and that cuts out so much of the time of just doing this. So yeah, just activate that add-on, and you're going to go into the Shading tab, click a part of the model. So in this example, I've got the skull, and you'll get this node section, which looks complicated, but again, this is all procedural because of Node Wrangler add-on. You want to add texture setup here under Node Wrangler tab, and you want to just select all the textures that have been exported for that section. So I've just gone for the skull, and it just instantly plugs them all into a material node, and that just works straight away on Blender. You can also still play around with this in this principal BSDF mode, but I wouldn't recommend doing that unless if you feel pretty comfortable with the nodes on Blender. But yeah, it's that easy. It's really not hard to set these up. And yeah, this is just the final result. Just a quick run through. So this is the principal BSDF node, and this is just your basic material node. So if you add material on Blender, this is what it adds to it. And then all this, the Node Wrangler add-on is just adding these image textures. So these are just nodes with the images I've taken out of Substance, and it's just plugging them into the basic material for the object. And then this mapping section is not that important. That's just making sure it reads the right areas of the model where it does it. So I know this one's a lot quicker than my last one, but I wanted to give you guys a chance to mess around with this. But if anyone's got any questions, now's the time.
What's the process like for taking these characters and putting them into Unity?
So it shouldn't be that hard. You should pretty much. I've still yet to do it. I've only actually done it for Unreal Engine. But you should just be able to save it as an OBJ file, from what I know, and it should be fine to just export into Unity. But what I had a look. Valcar asked the same question recently. There is loads and loads of YouTube tutorials online about how to do it. So it shouldn't be that difficult.
Oh, great, thanks.
Any other questions? Feel free